Hey everyone, welcome to Wholesaling the Cool Way. I'm Mark Cool and I'm here with my son Jasper Cool. And on this podcast, we share real world insights, tools, and strategies to help you succeed in real estate investing. You get perspectives from our two real estate investing businesses each week, and we cover wholesaling houses, vacant land, building businesses, and more. Normally, we start off with inspiration and education. So, Jasper, do you have stuff that's sparking your growth this week?
Yeah, one of the ones was the one you recommended. I'm actually still not finished with it. I'm probably like 70% through. But that one with Alex Hormozy with, I think it's just called like Sales, All of It, something like that, like a really simple title. But really good, really good. And so I was texting you about it earlier this week, but I just had a lot of takeaways from that already. Like I said, I'm not even all the way through it. So that one's been really good. For anyone who's interested, I'm sure you can find it on his YouTube channel or maybe on his podcast. I was just watching on the YouTube. But
We linked to it in the last podcast too. I think it's episode 61. It's in the show notes.
oh, perfect. Yeah. But I think it's like 2.5 hours and it's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good. So I mean you shared I think most of it on the last episode, so I don't need a deep dive, but I guess just an endorsement to for everyone who hasn't listened to it yet to check it out. And you and I were talking offline, but I've already been trying to put the wheels in motion to hire on the weekend because I'll share it in my business check-in a little bit more in depth. But Warnie from my team got a contract yesterday, and it just further solidified that. Right, it's like she came in just to kind of make that one phone call because she agreed to speak to the seller on Saturday. But I'm like, man, that was easy, right? Like it was just like
They have time. Yeah.
yeah, there was like no pushback at all. Like she signed the contract right on the phone with my acquisition agent, and I was just like, man. And so it just like reinforced that when I just heard Alex say it, and then I just see it in practice, and I'm like, wow, okay. So, anyways, I'm trying to put that into motion very soon, and then obviously focusing on one of the other things he said, which is just getting back to your leads as fast as possible. So I'm trying to put in place another follow-up specialist so that not only to help revive our older leads, but also we're getting a lot of inbound calls and don't always have the time to answer them live. So I think one more person could really help with that too, or at least just getting back to people as fast as we can if we're missing the call live. So yeah, those are just two things that I'm taking action on. But there were so many great takeaways just from that thing, from that Hermosi podcast or video. So that was great. And
Yeah.
then I listened to another one with it's called Money Wise that I've shared before, but it was just their weekly show. I forget the dude's actual name, but it was a really cool show. He used to work for Elon, and I think he started working for him at Tesla, and then he moved over to like Twitter when Elon bought Twitter. And a few really cool takeaways there. But one of them was that collectively, Elon's companies make $20 million an hour, and so
An hour.
an hour, and so that's amazing. But so his managers, like Elon's, C-suite and stuff, they won't let you like speak to Elon essentially unless your idea is theoretically going to make him more than $20 million an hour. Like if it's extremely valuable, right? And so that's kind of the frame that they use. Anytime you're trying to like get some one-on-one time with Elon, and so obviously, most people don't meet that bar. But I just thought that was so cool. It's like how much he kind of values his time and how they actually did the statistics on it. And they were like, look, like they'll show people, they're like, look, this is all the revenue that he's making every hour. So if your idea is not going to add to that or exponentially, then there's no reason for you to talk to him. So
Well, it's like that concept we were talking about from Naval is value your time highly and then, don't, you know, like and we were talking about 1,000 to $5,000 an hour being a steep rate.
mm-hmm.
Like we value our time at $1,000 an hour. Wow, that feels like a big deal, but that $20 million
Mm-hmm.
an hour is insane.
Yeah, super cool. So that was really cool. And then he also kind of shared on the opposite end of the spectrum where he's like, he shared that because obviously everyone respects Elon for what he's done in business. He's incredible. But this dude kind of went on the opposite end of the spectrum where he was like, he's very successful for himself. I think his net worth is somewhere in the $30 million ballpark. So very successful. Obviously nowhere near Elon. He's like 300 billion or something like that. But he shared this story that I thought was interesting, where it was like, Elon used to live in I think a tiny home or something like on the SpaceX property or something, so he could just roll out of bed
Yeah.
and go to work or something. But this dude said, he's close with Elon, or he was, and so he bought a house, like a $6 million home in Austin, Texas. And this dude lives in California in a $6 million home. And so he was like, we both live in the same home. And Elon has all this stress from all these companies, from all these employees, from all this stuff that's going on. And I don't. And so he was just sharing that, like, for the listeners, just to share that, like, you don't have to become this billionaire to live an amazing life. He's worth 30 million, which is a lot of money, but he's nowhere near a billionaire. And he still lives in the same exact house that Elon lives, comparatively, in terms of they both live in a very nice $6 million home. And so he was
Yeah.
just sharing that. And he was like, obviously, I don't own a plane. Like, I can't own a plane, but I can fly private. I can basically live the same life that Elon lives in terms of like the material and the luxury experiences, but he doesn't have to deal with all the craziness that comes with owning all his company. So that was a good just a thing to listen to for me, just to think about. Um, but yeah, he had a bunch of cool other takeaways, and also like his businesses are not like these crazy things that are going to be sold for hundreds of millions of dollars. Like he just has I think two agency businesses, so I think they're like marketing agencies, and I think between the two he takes home like $1 million or $2 million in profit like a year, and he's happy with that. So that was just cool. It's cool to listen to for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
Everybody's got
it.
their own definition of success and wealth,
Yeah.
and what that means. Like that, is it Jay Shetty or Naval Ravikant talks about your rich life and what that means, like just defining what your rich life is, not comparing to other people, but what would feel rich to you. And it's different for
Mm-hmm.
everybody.
Yep. Definitely. But yeah, that was it for me. Just want to share those two.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it reminds me of that thing from the Big Leap because I've been listening to the Big Leap book I've mentioned recently, but
Mm-hmm.
there's one of the upper limit problems about money that's about you think people limit themselves around making more money because they think it's going to mean more stress or more problems, right? There's that mindset of more money, more stress, more problems. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, how do you unwire that? Because there's a little bit of that in that conversation there, a little bit of like, well, I don't want to be like Elon because he's got more problems, but I mean, you could be as wealthy as Elon, and I think what's his name from Virgin? God, why am I losing his name? You know
Yeah,
who I
Richard
mean?
Branson.
Richard Branson. I think he's got it pretty well wired. He's got lots of companies and billions of dollars in an island and stuff, and I don't think he does much. From what I've heard of his lifestyle, he meets with his executive assistant once or twice a day, and everything runs. Makes a few decisions. Um, for me, I've been listening to Dan Coe, who I mentioned previously. He's really got a lot of cool content about doing a one person business or growing your brand, stuff like that. And we're doing this podcast, and I'm trying to learn about how to do this internet and social media thing. But he also, the one I listened to this week, he had a video called, I think it was a podcast I listened to called Monk Mode and disappearing for 2 to 4 hours a day. And one of the pieces he talks about in there that I like is that people with day jobs or people with other pursuits, the issue is not more time, the issue is more leverage, the issue is better productivity and better focus, right? Like you can get an hour a day to focus on the thing you want to grow outside of your 9 to 5 and your family and whatever obligations you have. And if you're really zeroed in on what the biggest levers are and what the priorities are and how to completely focus for the amount of time that you have, um, and be maximally productive, that's the important thing. And he talks about like how a lot of millionaires and really wealthy people work 2 to 4 5 hours a day, whatever, somewhere in that range, right? That nobody's really working 8 10. There's this whole movement around the grind and all that stuff and people working ridiculous hours, but he's pushing back on that. And I think there's plenty of people who push back on that and be like, your sweet spot of productivity and getting stuff done and being really creative is within a few hours each day, and downtime and things like workouts and time in nature and all these things really help you to get to that place. So it was a good podcast. I just like the perspective of it. That's Dan Coe, Koe, and he's got one called Monk Mode. I'll link to it in the show notes. And then I've been watching some of the School of Hard Knocks stuff because I like that on YouTube. It's this guy who he's got a podcast called The School of Hard Knocks, and he interviews millionaires and billionaires and asks them how they got wealthy and what they would tell people coming up, or how what advice they'd get to people who are trying to make their first million. And most recent one I watched, I sent you that one, Jasper, but I also watched that one with this guy called Todd Johnson, and he's got like social media TJ millionaire mentor, but he was a guy who grew up in a really poor setting on food stamps, and built himself a tech business and sold it, but now he just buys and sells businesses, and he's lives in a really nice mansion in Beverly Hills, adjacent to a lot of big stars and wealthy people with car collections and stuff. And he came from very, very little, and it's just cool to hear his story. So those are fun to watch, just to see uh, where people come from and where they get to and how they get there, and hear their tips on. And he was just talking about buy businesses. He was like, you don't start a business, buy businesses. There's a lot of them for sale. uh, anyway, that was inspiring to me. So those are my two I'll check in about.
Yeah, I love those guys. The School Hard Knocks guys, they're awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really, really good stuff. And you get to tour some really, really nice mansions and properties and stuff
Yeah,
with them. So uh all right, well, we've covered what's been inspiring us, so let's dive into business check-in and how our businesses are performing this week. We're going to do sort of a brief business check-in because we promised we'd do more of a deep dive on SMS this week. So I guess, Jasper, you want to do your business and then just roll into SMS, and then I can do the same after you've checked in.
definitely. Yeah, so I'll just do like you said, just brief. I guess I'll just do like kind of a KPIs real quick, and then I'll jump into texting. Um, so this was a great week for us to start the month. It was awesome. We got 5 contracts signed.
Nice.
We got one of those on Saturday, which I touched on earlier, but shout out to Warnie on my team who was willing to come in on Saturday to lock up this deal. And like I said, it was super easy and smooth for her. She did the work over time following up with this seller, but she got signed on Saturday, and that looks like it'll be a pretty good deal for us. And then getting a couple pictures of properties today so we can start marketing them next week. That's kind of been a bottleneck for us lately, is just getting these pictures, especially of occupied properties. It's just like pulling teeth sometimes. And so yeah, we're trying to work through that and figure out a better way to do it, but it's sometimes just really hard to get these appointments set up. So anyways, but that's that. We sold 2 deals this week and didn't close anything, but we do have 5 scheduled for this month. Hopefully get a few more scheduled. But that's what it's looking like right now for the month. Yeah, so I guess I'll just go into SMS after that. So I have some KPIs that I pulled out that I wanted to go over in case that's helpful, but I just want to go over my process. So I use Launch Control. I've been using them since 2022. And before that, I tried Batch Leads, and I tried Smarter Contact, and I tried one other one I'm forgetting about now. I tried another bigger name one, but then I also tried this one. Actually, my first venture into SMS, it's kind of fun to go down memory lane, was my friend Tyler White, who's actually a great buyer. You might have worked with him before. He's buying a bunch of land for development now, but he's
I don't know.
yeah, I have to connect you guys because he used to buy a bunch of property for me, and now he's pretty much only buying land. So you guys got to connect. But either way, I met him, when I was first getting started. One of the first few deals I did. A super nice guy, and he had been on Sean Terry's podcast, and he was like a celebrity to me because I was like, man, he's a Sean Terry podcast, like he's a successful wholesaler. And he actually, when I first met him, he pulled up in a Dodge Ram truck, which is the same one that I bought a couple years later, and that was why, that was like a goal of mine. But anyway, super cool
Mm.
guy, really smart guy, great buyer, great investor. And anyways, he came up with the first SMS software that I had heard of for like, doing mass blast SMS. And basically what it was is just like an API that connected CallRail to be able to send out blasts. And so that was actually my first venture into SMS. That was way back in like 2019, I think. And my admin VA, who's been with me since then, was the one who helped me with that. And it was working for us. We were getting leads, but it wasn't like it was capped. We couldn't send out thousands like we do now. And so that was my first venture into it. And then it was working for sure, but it was just not in volume. So then I did Smarter Contact for a little bit. I got a few deals from that. And then I tried Batch Leads, and I didn't really like that one. So Smarter Contacts is better than Batch Leads. And then I found Launch Control, and I like them the best. And so, anyways, that's my story, I guess. But been with them since 2022. Ramped up to 3 accounts, back down to 2 accounts right now. And in total, we send out, or our cap, I guess, is 250,000 outbound texts a month combined between the two accounts. So that's our monthly cap. And we typically use it up every month. Typically before the end of the month, we run out actually. So it's kind of the last week is usually a dead week for us in terms of outbound SMS. We still get some replies coming in, but yeah, so that's a number of texts we send out. As far as the process looks like I said, my admin VA manages it all for me. I still am doing like a week. I typically log in on the weekends, just kind of look at our KPIs and just kind of see how things are going. But also, this year has been a bit of a challenge with launch control. I've had to redo our templates a few times, and a good thing about launch control is that they'll do it for you for the most part, and they'll kind of coach you through it if they're not going to do it for you. But our first step is just anytime they tell us what templates suck, I'm just like, okay, well, can you create templates for us? Show us how it's done. And then once they do that, we'll kind of just templatize off of those. And so we've had to do that. This is our third time now this year, and it's only February. So it seems like they're kind of just, I guess, adjusting with the carriers. That's one nice thing about doing it with these software is that they're on the side of compliance, so you don't have to worry about that. So they're doing all that work, and they're just passing along those things to you. So sometimes that can result in them pausing your account, which is frustrating. But at least you're staying compliant, so that's good. But yeah, so then once we upload data, what I do personally is I try to upload just enough data for each week. That's what I try to do. And so that we're kind of just hitting that fresh data weekly. And it's not like instead of buying a list of 100,000 people, for example, and that takes us 2 or 3 weeks to get through, I'd rather just buy a smaller list and run through it in a week so that we can contact all those people. So that's what I'm doing. So I still buy the data myself weekly, and then we upload that into launch, and we hit that throughout the week. And then that's in conjunction with follow-up campaigns. So they have what's called a follow-up campaign, which is where anyone who doesn't reply to your text, you can hit them again in 30 days. So they automatically will pop those up for you, and all you have to do is click add campaign, and then you can just follow up with those people once that time frame is up, after 30 days. So that's what we do. I would say it's probably somewhere around 50-50. I don't have exact data on new campaigns versus follow campaigns, but I think it's somewhere around 50-50 in terms of what text we're sending, outbound. And then once the replies come in, like I said, this admin VA is managing, himself and a team of people that respond to these texts. And then every time we get someone interested, we just push it straight through to our CRM, which is Podio. And from there, our team just, calls them up and tries to have a conversation with them. So the way that we're doing that, I guess I could go in a bit more detail, is that we look for 2 positive responses essentially, because with texting, obviously you're texting someone, you're not speaking to them. So there can be like fake people, people that are just trying to scam you and waste your time. And so I noticed that when I was being like more loose on the qualifications, we were getting a lot more of that. And since we've done the 2 positive responses, it's cut it down quite a bit. I would say 90% of our leads are legit, maybe 95, and we're only getting a few scammers these days. So that's nice. But what I mean by that is when we first reach out to them, it's kind of a response that will elicit either a yes or a no. Like we're basically asking them, not directly, but we're basically asking them, will you sell your house? Like, are you interested in selling your house? And at that point, they're either going to say either yes, no, or not right now, pretty much. Or they might use some choice words with you, but that's a no as well. And so if they say yes, then we'll follow up with another question like, do you have a ballpark price in mind, for example? What's your timeline looking like to sell, for example? Like I said, I'm not doing these texts like you aren't either, so I'm not as familiar with our messaging, but that we'll just kind of push for a second response from them. And then if we don't get that response, we'll put them in a drip sequence to follow up with them. And we're not going to push that lead through immediately. If we do get that positive response, like if we reach out to them and say, for example, okay, thanks or okay, great, for example, how soon are you looking to sell it? And they say, oh, within the next 2 months. Well, we probably push that through. And then we just start the process, try to reach out to them, learn their situation and move forward. But if, for example, if they said yes, and then we're like, okay, great, how soon are you looking to sell? And we get no response, then we'll put them in the drip. Or if they say, oh, I'm not looking to sell, like I was just messing with you, or like, never mind, or something, then we'll just put them in a longer follow-up.
Or the people who say, when you say what's your ballpark, and they say $1 million,
Exactly. Yeah. So that's not a lead. That's not an example of a lead. But if you say like, what's your ballpark? And we have a formula, I don't have it in front of me. We have a formula where if they say what's their ballpark and it's within a certain percentage of Zillow, then we'll push those leads. And if it's like you said, 500K, 1 million or something, then we're not going to push those. So yeah, if they give a realistic price or if they give any like realistic answer after we ask a second question, then we'll send them through. And I think that's pretty much the process from there. I mean, it's not too complicated. That's pretty much it. So yeah, and then I'll just share my KPIs from the last month in case it's helpful. So these are my stats from January. So like I said, we send out 250,000 outbound texts per month. I don't have I don't have a number on the like all the replies and stuff to go back and forth, but our response rate on average between the two accounts in January was 8%. And like I said, that's combining the follow-up campaigns and the new campaigns. Obviously, new is like double, and follow-up is like half. So then it kind of blends to be 8%. And then 86% delivery rate. So that means 86% of those 250,000 texts were delivered. And then of the 86% that were delivered, 8% of those people responded to us. So that's what those numbers mean. And then from that, we got 264 leads. So if you look at that on a 30,000 foot view, that's like just over 1%, right? We sent out 250,000, got 264. And then we got 9 contracts signed in January from text. So those are just kind of my KPIs. And that's pretty much what I have. So does that sound good? Or like, is there any other things I should go over?
I mean, from questions we've been getting, I think people want nuts and bolts. So we did talk a little bit about cost last week and features, right, of both smarter contract and launch control. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, we need to mention that again, but we could go over pricing on this stuff. I mean, I'll do mine, and then maybe it'll kick off stuff for you. So,
Okay.
because I think you kicked off some stuff for me, and then we'll go back and forth maybe a little bit. And then if people have questions, just put them in the comments, and we'll follow up with it. Um, is that good for you? If I just roll in, and then we can go back and forth a little bit and see if there's anything else we want to fill in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So I'll do my business real briefly. Trying to find my notes here. So for victories, we closed 2 this week. We sold 1, and the 2 closed were both vacant lots. We sold a vacant lot, and then we got 3 contracts this week, all vacant lots as well. I went to a closing in person this week. I posted that on some social media, just a photo of me and the sellers. I have not been to a closing in probably 2 to 2.5 years, so that was my first one in a long time. These people were elderly, and they were very old school and very suspicious or concerned about scams and stuff like that. So I showed up at the closing to make sure it happened. And even at the table with the attorney, there were a couple little moments where there was some discomfort, and the attorney and I had to like talk them down off a ledge. So, but it ended
Yeah.
up being a really positive experience. And, um, because they wanted to sit there in the lobby and wait for their check and have their check in hand before they left, I sat there after we signed everything and just talked with them and got to know them, and it was really nice. So I did post a picture of that on a couple of different spots like YouTube and Facebook and stuff.
That's great.
We took a photo, yeah, and I was able to bring my dog in because it's a dog-friendly office, so they were happy about that because they have a shepherd also. So it turned out to be
That's cool.
positive. That was a victory. It
Yeah.
is nice to go to a closing once in a while and remember what it's like to be at a closing, because I haven't been to one in a long time. And we closed like 40, close 40, over 40 deals the last 2 years. So I haven't been to any closings until this past week. Um, yeah, and then I've got some challenges in here, but I don't really need to dive into challenges too much because we're mostly about SMS today. Closing story. All right, I'll just jump into SMS and some stuff that I wrote down with the platform. So I will check in because I pulled up tabs just about the membership levels, and we talked about this. Like, um, let's see here, the pricing plan for Smarter Contact. You can, and we talked about this last week too. But I've done launch control, and I went off of launch control because we had some challenges with getting our account frozen for a prolonged period, and they worked on it, but they didn't get us back online in any quick way. And then that's a great platform. There's a lot of really good stuff about it, like Jasper said, and we used them for quite a while. I don't know, 3 to 6 months, but then we did a split test with Smarter Contact. We like Smarter Contact better for some of the features. I mean, I don't think Launch Control has the calling feature, right? Jasper, you can't call in or out.
Yeah, they can call you, but you can't call them directly from the platform.
Okay, yeah, so we can call in and out from from Smarter Contact, which is nice. And then initially we had RVM, which is now illegal, but RVM in there. So you can only use RVM for opted in people for like follow-ups and stuff. But so we can't use it as a marketing tool. Anyway, the starter plan in Smarter Contact is $199 a month, and so that's unlimited leads and contracts, unlimited markets, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you can go to the link. I don't need to run this whole thing down. I'll put the link in the show notes here. And then they have a pro plan, and then they have an elite plan, and I think it just has to do with how many free outbound texts you get opposed to paying for them. They're pretty cheap, but I guess the point is if you're a beginner or if you have a low budget and you want to start off, you could start off for as low as $199 a month for a platform that'll send a bunch of texts for you. Um, as far as the logistics of doing it, just nuts and bolts, you pull a list, you skip trace the list, and you upload it to the platform, and then you can, set up a campaign, and then you just click each number to send it. And our SMS guy has like there's some kind of thing, app or extension you can get on your computer, and just so it'll auto send every 6 seconds or something like that. It's supposed to wait 6 seconds between them so you don't get flagged. So that's just the nuts and bolts of it. And as far as getting lists, like I think probably Launch Control has this, and Smarter Contact, you can skip trace on the platform. I don't know, you can't
Yeah,
pull
they
data on
they
this.
have that too.
Yeah, you can skip trace on the platform. Generally, we find that skip tracing on the platform is more expensive than going with somebody like Direct Skip, where Jasper and I both buy bulk skips for, you can get them for as low as what, 5 or 6 cents per skip, whereas most platforms are going to charge you like 10 or 12% per skip, depending on your plan level. So we're on
Mhm.
like an elite pro level plan, and we get 50,000 free texts included in that plan. Obviously the plan's not free. It costs us like $1,200 a month for the plan, but then we don't have to pay for any additional text, and we get free text and whatever other features we get. I don't think I think it's mostly about the texts and the incoming messages and calls and stuff like that we get for free with the bigger plan. But yeah,
Yeah.
so we usually use up that 50,000 per month, and we have a much smaller scale SMS operation than Jasper currently. We're sending like 50,000 a month, and then so what's that, like 12,000, 12,500 per week, yeah, ish. So 2,000 ish per day texts we're sending out. And when I'm looking at our numbers here, we this is just for the last week. We sent 22,000 texts, which is high because I just said we did like um, less than that, 50,000 a month. But and then our response rate is 5%, and we do have fairly heavy. We've been recycling some lists, and we've been trying to see how far back we can go with recycling our list and still be effective. So if you're looking to save money, like Matt Larson, I think his system is he sends a list and then 2 weeks later he resends a list, right? So he's basically recycling lists every 2 weeks, and then when the response rate uh, drops below a certain percentage, he gets rid of that list and brings a new one in. Obviously he's cycling other new lists through at the same time, but if you're trying to save money, you can recycle lists. And obviously, if you're pulling lists, like we pay, both Jasper and I pay for our data. We pay various companies like Direct Skip, and we have we have a subscription with Skipify, and then there's other sources, List Source, and other companies that you can buy data from. But we've talked about before on this podcast, if you're starting out and you have a low budget, you can go on PropWare and pull lists for free. And there are other sites too, but we've talked again on this podcast and in some of the comments about results for PropWare. We are closing deals with free data, and you can do it. So try not to lose a thread, but yeah, we were at a 5% response rate here, and then I broke down some stuff. Our delivery rate similar to yours, Jasper, 88% delivery rate. Carrier block rate is less than 1%, so that's good. And then I did a cost per closed deal, and I did that just based on our cost per month and total leads. We're averaging like 140 leads a month on SMS, and we've been averaging 4 closed. So we're closing about 1 deal every 35 leads that we get from SMS, and so that gives us a cost, because we're spending a fair amount of money for the subscription platform, for the skip tracing, and for pulling lists. We're spending around, $4,400 a month for 140 leads and 4 closed. So that comes out to $1,100 per closed deal. And when you figure our average closed deal on a piece of land is like 10K, then we're what is that? Is that 10x? If it's costing us 1,100 per closed deal, it's roughly 10x, right?
Yeah, that's great.
10K for 10K profit. Yeah. So that's a 10x ROI on SMS marketing, and then ROI is return on investment. So for every 1,000 we spend, we're making 10,000. So every dollar you spend, you're making $10. So that's pretty good, right? For SMS. And and I might not be figuring all the costs. I mean, am I missing something, Jasper? I'm looking at the platform cost, our monthly subscription to the SMS platform, our skip tracing cost, and then our cost to pull lists. And when I total that all up, then I get 4,400, and like I said, 140 leads, 4 closed, 1,100 cost per closed deal. So anyway, that's roughly where I'm at. I guess the
Mhm.
point of it is SMS is a really good ROI, and what I'm doing is a business with 6 or 7 team members and closing, 40 or 50 deals a year. So if you're just starting out, you could do it with free data and a much lower plan, and and still probably get a really nice ROI.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's all I had written down for SMS. I just wanted to talk about response rate too, because we've gone up and down with response rate, and we're at 5% for this last week, and we've been there. We've been like 4, 6, 7, whatever. And we've talked about this before on the podcast, but a year and a half ago, Jasper, you and I were at 15 to 20% response rate, right?
Yep.
Before all the crackdowns. So you're spending a lot more money just to get responses these days, before all the carriers cracked down and all the regulations kicked in and everything. But the ways to improve your response rate, and jump in here if I'm missing anything, but the quality of your list and the quality of your data, the freshness of your data. You don't want to be pulling or using really old data, because you're going to just have a lot of fallout rate, and people change their phone numbers and all that stuff. The quality of your scripts, which Jasper mentioned. You want to be updating your scripts that you're sending out to people, your initial messages. And Matt Larson has some on his site that we've pulled, and then similar to you, Jasper will edit or use AI. I think Smarter Contact does the same thing for us. If we ask them for scripts, they'll give us scripts, and then we tweak them and mess with them. But I think you do need to rotate your scripts and update them. And then what's the other one? Phone number rotation is one that helped us bump up a little bit recently. Is like you have to retire phone numbers periodically that you're texting people from, because people, people can say stop on your text, and then they'll automatically opt out. But you don't know how many people are just blocking your number. Like I do it all the time. If I get something I don't want, I just block the number on my phone. And so you're not getting some of those people after you use the phone number multiple times for similar lists or similar counties or wherever, however you're marketing. So it's important to recycle your phone number, or I mean, change out your phone numbers periodically at intervals. And you can buy
Mhm.
phone numbers on these platforms for a couple bucks, right? I think you buy them. Is it one-time purchase, or is it like a monthly? I think it's a one-time purchase, right? I can't
Now
remember. Do you remember?
I don't use Smart Contact, but yeah,
I
typically
think
it's
you
a
buy. I
monthly
think
monthly thing.
you pay monthly on launch control.
I pay monthly on call real quick. Launch control doesn't make you buy numbers.
Oh, so we're buying our numbers through Just Call, and then we're putting them up here. Yeah, right. You're right. So anyway, numbers don't cost that much. Rotate them through. That's a good way to keep your response rate up. And then,
Yeah.
just tweaking your replies, like Jasper was talking about. Like we have a bunch of replies in our system that we're always kind of tweaking and editing to see like which ones are eliciting a better response on that first contact when you get the reply, and then how you're how you're advancing the conversation with the sellers, right? What's your after they say, "Oh, I might want to sell it," or "I might be interested," or "Yes, I'm the owner," whatever it is. Then what's your next reply after that, and your next reply after that, and how do you what's your sort of conversation, your tree of your conversation, right, with the branches. And continuing to tweak that, I think, is a good thing to keep your response rate up and your quad of your leads. And then, yeah, and then just nuts and bolts again within the CRM, you have the information of the person you're talking to that it gets uploaded from your list. You can tag people with different labels and tags and filter by that and everything. And then you can push people to the CRM. I think both Smarter Contact and Launch Control integrate with CRMs very easily. And you can just, when somebody's a warm lead, you can just push it to your CRM and then it'll populate there in the CRM. And am I missing anything for nuts and bolts or anything else, Jasper, that came up while I was talking?
Oh, I don't think so. I think we covered just about all of it.
Yeah. So yeah, if you have any other questions about SMS, let us know. We're happy to, answer anything if you're starting out or if you're thinking about trying one of these platforms or scaling up or wherever you're at in your business. We've both been doing it I've been doing SMS since 2023. And I think Jasper, you said you started in 2022. And it's our primary lead gen strategy right now. We do some direct mail and some other things, but we've both talked about, Jasper and I have both talked about phasing out cold calling because we haven't had great results with it. So the ROI for SMS is still great, and it's a fairly low cost way to get some leads in and start closing deals or keep closing deals or close more deals, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's all I've got for that. You got anything
Awesome.
else for SMS?
No, I don't think so. Just recommend everyone to do it for sure.
Yeah, and someone
But
asked on the chat about Roar. I haven't tried Roar, ROOR, and I'm sure there are other platforms out there. These are just the top two that we're aware of, but people are always bringing new stuff out, and there's plenty of options and for SMS. But I think the biggest key is like you do need numbers, right? You need volume. As you can see, the volume we're doing compared to the leads we're getting, you have to get some level of volume before you're really going to start to see steady leads.
mm-hmm.
All right, so let's see if we have any questions and comments to answer here. Move on to that segment and see how quickly I can get there in YouTube. At least I know where to go now. I didn't have a YouTube tab open here, so just got to navigate over here to the community tab and see what we got. And so we got segment on subject 2 would be awesome. We can talk more about that. Jasper doesn't do subject 2. He sends them to me to see if we can make a deal. So far,
Yeah.
we haven't JV'd on one yet. We got one under contract, but then we ended up not closing it. But we'll probably eventually JV a sub 2. And
Yeah,
then
I just got one at Roxborough I was gonna send you, but it's not a smoking deal really. But this lady's got 3 new build homes.
oh yeah,
Do we have like 5 minutes? Maybe you could talk over a sample deal.
sure.
Okay. I could just talk through this lead with you, and then what your answers could probably be helpful to the audience. So this
Okay.
lady, that's funny. I met her years and years and years ago when I was first getting started, and a very nice lady. But anyway, she called in, and she moved to Roxborough a couple years back, and she bought 3 homes. She bought 1 ranch for her to live in because she's older, and she bought 2 2-story homes. These are all new development and on the same street, and she rented the other 2 out. And so now she wants to move back to Durham, and it's pretty funny. But anyways, so she's looking to sell these, ASAP. And so, anyways, she was looking for, got the notes right here. She's looking for $295 a piece for these houses, and it's slightly below market, right? They're new builds, and so the market on these is probably 320. She wants $295 a piece cash, right, for a cash deal. And so she told me that Zillow offered her $285 a piece, and I was like, "Well, we're going to offer about $250 a piece, so you're gonna not want to talk to me after that." But she's a super sweet lady, and so what she said is that she's already talked to her mortgage company, and they're totally fine with someone assuming the loan. And I was like, "Well, that's interesting." And so just sharing this for the audience because I'm not well versed in these, like my dad said, but he is. And so all I pretty much know to ask for is the PITI. That's pretty much all I know. And so she gave me the PITI for the one that she's living in. It's 864 is her monthly payment, everything included. And then she has those two rentals, like I mentioned, and they're separate monthly pay, like they're different monthly payments because she put more down on one of them, I guess. And so one of the rentals is 1474 per month, the other one's 1831. And I'm really bummed at myself that I didn't write down the mortgage amount because she gave it to me. But it was somewhere for the mortgage amount for each one, but it's 428 combined is her mortgage balance on all three homes. And so
Mhm.
the problem is she's open to doing a sub two, but she still wants that massive cash payment, to move and buy a new home. So she was like, "Yeah, you can assume the loan, but I just need $428,000 to walk away." And I was like, "Oh, that's not going to work." But anyways, I was going to send it to you anyways, but that's kind of the numbers on it, and I don't think it's going to work because she wants this massive cash infusion. But at the same time, these are new build homes. So technically, if you break that up, what's that 428 divided by three in terms of cash? I don't know what that is off the top. Let me use a calculator.
Well,
But
it's
I
less
guess,
than 150. It's
yeah,
like
so I guess,
130.
so you'd
Well,
be
no,
into a
one
home.
140.
Yeah, so you'd be into these homes with 140,000 down payment essentially, which is massive. But at least you're like taking over a mortgage payment. So anyways, that's the numbers on this. This is not a smoking deal by any means, but maybe it could be a little quick breakdown.
So you're saying that the value is around 300K each. So we're talking about 900K total value.
About 320 each.
Okay, so 960K total value.
Mhm.
And so then she wants 428 in cash.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then you've got five, yeah, 530 in mortgages or equity after that.
Yeah, she's
Because
got
if you take
428 combined loan balances on all three combined. And then she wants
so
another 428 herself. So
so it's 428 loan balances and she wants 428.
yeah, I'm sure that part's
So
negotiable a bit though, but yeah.
yeah, so if it's 960 total estimated value, and then you've got 430 and 430 is 860. So you're
Hmm.
talking about 100K meat on the bone, right?
So only about 30K per property on meat on the bone. So yeah.
Right. But the one issue I see here is with the rentals, if you've got mortgage payments of 1800 and 1500, 1474, 1831, I always look at the rental rate in the area and see if I can cash flow on those properties, right?
Hmm.
So like these rentals would have to be, you'd have to have a rental rate of like $200 to $300 more than what those mortgage payments are there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to have to refinance or do something in there, to get a lower rate. So
Hmm.
that's one thing to look at. But if you can take these properties and you've got 100K built-in equity, and then you can sell them on owner financing if the numbers were there with the monthly payments, which they are on her primary residence, but not on the other two. I don't know if there's a way to shuffle that
Yeah.
around and refinance so they were all more like 1,200, and then you could sell them for a monthly payment of 1,600. Then you'd cash flow 400 each, and then the big money in subject two is the long term. If somebody pays you over 30 years, they're buying a property for 300, and you already have 30K equity in it. Then with subject two, you have three profit centers. You have the monthly, and then you have the built-in equity that you get on the purchase, and then you also have the long term, which is really the big money, the compound interest. Because if you sell this property for 320 and somebody pays you for 30 years at a market interest rate or a little bit above, you're going to end up, they're going to end up paying 600,000 over 30 years. So you're going to make your 30 up front on each property, your cash flow, and then your big compound interest payoff. Even if they cash you out before the 30 years, you're still going to get a big bump. So
Hmm.
the biggest red flag I would see there is the 1474 and the 1831, and then obviously, if you, as you've mentioned, the big payout. But you probably could get a business partner who wanted to invest there. If you wrote up a proposal and it was a solid, you know, where you could see that it's a conservative investment where somebody's going to be safe and they're going to be protected by the value of those new build homes. You probably get a
Hmm.
business partner. Plenty of people out here with money, they want to loan or put in things. So it's not doable. It's just got definitely some moving parts, and you have to look at stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
like these deals because you get to be creative and think about how to figure this stuff all out. But it does take some figuring, and some of them are more slam dunks than others.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have like three in the works, or 3 in our portfolio right now, and they were a little bit more straightforward. We just bought the property subject to at a below market rate, sold it to somebody, owner financing at market rate, and then cash flow monthly on the property, on the 2 that we have. So we have one that we owned, but we haven't sold it yet. We own subject to. So anyway, I guess that's our brief little subject to for whoever asked about the subject to. That was a big digression from the question answering portion, but hopefully
Yeah, sorry.
there's some, no, that's fine. I like talking about subject to, so we could, if people want to know more about that, we can definitely, or maybe I do a separate, I don't know, Q&A, or we could do a live or something. How often are you retargeting and re-hitting the same markets / lists going out to new areas?
Yeah, that's a great
You
question.
want
Yeah, so for me, like I said, when I was first kind of experimenting with going virtual across the whole state, I pretty much tried every single state. I narrowed it down, but I'm still in quite a few counties. If you were to list out all the counties, it's probably about 15 that I'm marketing in. And so yeah, I'm pretty much just like, rotating through those. And so like one week I'll buy a list for this county, next week I'll buy a list for next county. And that's kind of how I do it. And so that's pretty much how I do it. It's like if one county per week gives me enough data, I'll just do one county. But if one county is too small, for example, then I'll maybe purchase 2 or 3 counties in a week. But that's what I'm doing, and I just do that. And then by the time I get to like 15 counties, it's pretty much time to hit the new one again. And so for me, I'm kind of just buying data. I try not, this will be the better way to answer it. I try not to buy data in the same county twice within 90 days. I try to do it every 90 days at the least, I guess, if that makes sense. So I'm trying not to buy the same county twice within 90 days, because every 90
Yeah.
days, I think these list providers are updating. At least if it's a good list provider, I think they update every quarter. So that's the way I think about it. And also, like I said, that's 15 weeks, and a quarter is 12 weeks. So 15 counties if I'm buying one county a week. So it kind of lines up perfectly for me. So that's kind of how I'm doing it. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, similar for us. We have 15 to 20 counties. Every once in a while we'll try a new one, but and we rotate through and buy the county, and then we we do we do the list, fresh data, and then whatever 2 weeks to 30 days later we'll hit that list again as a recycled list. Like Jasper, you were saying in launch control, you do it automatically.
Mhm.
You automate those follow-ups. We hit, Smarter Contact has a similar thing like follow-up campaigns. So we rest it for a couple weeks, and then we hit it again. But in the meantime, we're pulling a fresh list for the next county down the list. So we're kind of doing like a forward and back, right? It's like fresh list and this county, and then maybe we're recycling a list in another county, and then we're doing fresh list and recycle fresh list, and we're just kind of leapfrogging those back and forth until we
Yeah.
get to the end of our 15 or 20 counties, and then we go back to the top of the list and we do it again. So very similar process to what Jasper just described.
Yeah, and it's nice, like
Um,
with launch control, like you said, they just do it for you. So every 30 days, we just hit that list. I don't cold call anymore. When I used to cold call, I was very granular about recycling these things. So I would do what's called, I would do three attempts, right? So first attempt is a fresh list, and then I would hit it again immediately. Second attempt, I would hit it again after that. Third attempt, then I would put it on ice for 1 month, and I call it putting it on ice. But that just means we're not touching it for a month in cold calling. And then after that month, hit it again, another 3 attempts, and then we put it on ice for 6 weeks, and then another 3 attempts, and then it's done. So basically 9 attempts in total, but I'm spacing that out over a 1 month break, a 6 week break, and then hit it one more time, and then we're done. So that's what I used to do when I was cold calling. So
yeah, so that gives you some good examples about how to, alternate fresh data with recycling data. And you don't want to get too old with it, right? Like I think once a list is 2 or 3 months old, then you got to, you know, as Jasper said, probably every 90 days you want to pull a fresh list in a county.
yeah.
And then somebody said, "Would love that Podio. How can I get access?" We mentioned that we could share our Podio frameworks with people. I saw this message, and I honestly, the only reason I haven't done it is because I don't know how to do it. So I have to either get my tech guy or look into how to share that frame. I don't know if you know how to do it, Jasper.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet, but I believe you can just clone a workspace. So I'll try to figure it out, and then we can share it with you. So
You can
yeah,
just create a workspace and then share it.
I think you can just like clone a workspace. So
Clone a workspace.
yeah. So
Okay.
I think I'll be able to, make a blank one and share it with people. So I'll try to work on that.
Okay. So we do have a request for that. So
Yeah.
um, that's in here. And then follow up boss is the GOAT. I haven't used follow up boss. I guess that's a CRM. Uh, yeah, CRM and has a phone system built in. Have you used follow up boss,
No,
Jasper?
I haven't. I've heard of it though, but no.
Okay. And then kind of a random question, not sure how it works with houses since I do mainly land. I want to try and buy a personal home from a wholesaler so I can get a good deal. What is the inspection process like? Am I allowed to tour the property or are these purchased without walkthroughs?
Yeah, great question. Well, I mean, I can answer it personally for my business. We are more than happy to work with people that are buying their personal residence. I have a bunch of those people that are on our buyers list. What I've noticed is that most of the time, as a business, we're just going to choose the best offer, and a lot of times these type of people are not paying the same amount that an investor might pay because they might be scared of repairs and stuff, which I totally understand. I don't want to buy these homes that my investors buy, so I totally understand. But yeah, we're totally fine with that. For me, at least, I'll just speak on my business. It works the exact same as any other real estate transaction. We're giving every buyer a chance to walk through the property, do their inspection, all that stuff. If it is an occupied property, it's a little bit condensed. We only want to limit it to 1 or 2 appointments. So I would ask that you bring a contractor, inspector, whatever, all at the same time so that we can limit, disruption. But if it's a vacant property, free for all, do whatever you want. You can bring people as many times as you want. The only other thing I'll mention is that most of these properties we are promising our sellers to close in under a month. And so sometimes that can present an issue to an owner occupied buyer, but a lot of mortgage companies can close in 3 or 4 weeks. So if that's the case with you, if you're working with a good mortgage lender, then shouldn't be an issue. So it's pretty much the same as any other property. In that sense, the only thing I would say, like I said, is occupied properties. It's a little bit more difficult to go through a traditional home sale because they require appraisal, inspection, all that stuff. But vacant houses that you're getting from wholesalers should be no problem at all. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good answer. And I think the one point you made about the timeline is important because if you are a buyer who's using a mortgage company, you have to make sure that your mortgage company can act quickly because,
Mhm.
as Jasper said, a lot of wholesale deals were promising a 30-day close or roughly there. Like you can usually extend a seller to 45 or even 60 sometimes as long as they're confident it's closing, but not always. So you do have to be aware of that. And yeah, same for me. I mean, if it's a vacant property, the inspections are no problem. The one caveat I would add to this is that it is an as-is purchase. We're not,
Mhm.
in a traditional real estate purchase. Oftentimes you're negotiating repairs and other things. That doesn't happen usually with a wholesale deal. It's normally just you can walk through, you can do all your inspections, you can get your quotes, et cetera, but it's as is. You have to
Yeah.
make your offer and based on what you have to do, what work is needed, but not expect that you're going to be able to negotiate in work being done or concessions based on work needing to be done. I mean, concessions based on work needing to be done is part of the process, but generally it's not going to deviate a ton
Yeah.
from asking. Uh,
Yeah, that's a
but yeah,
great point. Like you're welcome to, bring up those items, but don't expect the wholesaler to reduce their price basically.
yeah,
Because they have a lot of other buyers that are willing to take it on with those issues. So that's a great point.
yeah,
And then last thing I'll mention is to just make sure your mortgage lender is okay with it because some lenders won't allow or won't lend on properties that are like being assigned for whatever reason. I think that's pretty much gone away now, but I have dealt with a couple lenders that won't, do that if there's an assignment fee involved for whatever reason. And especially sometimes if there's an assignment fee that's like maybe 20,000 or more, they especially don't like it. So I would just reach out to your mortgage lender and make sure you get a mortgage lender that's good before you even go into this process. Because like we said, they need to close quickly. They need to be okay with, this as is type sale and they need to be okay with a wholesale transaction. So I would just say get that mortgage side handled and then otherwise it's pretty much the same.
yeah. And I mean, you could go the hard money route and then refinance it into a more traditional thing once you fix it up, because and that's a whole other subject. But there are hard money lenders that will lend, on a property, and they're sometimes maybe not as strict. I don't know. The only other thing I would say about traditional lenders too is that many traditional lenders have standards as far as the condition of the house. Like if you have an HVAC system that's not working or, something major, they might not lend on that either. right? In
Yeah.
some of these houses that people are wholesaling might need a new HVAC or a new roof, or, a lender might not lend on a roof that's 25 years old or something like that. So you have to be careful about those things.
Hmm.
All right, that's a good question. Thank you. And I think that's all that we had from the past week on the community thread, questions and comments and stuff. So thanks everybody for listening and participating in the community and asking questions and giving feedback and stuff. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I think we're about to wind down this podcast here. And Jasper, did you save any quotes or anything from the week to share? Any inspiration?
Um, I don't think I have anything off the top of my head. No.
Yeah, I didn't save anything. Sometimes I do bookmark something or save something, but I didn't. All right, well, we'll just wrap it up and again say thanks to everyone for listening and watching and participating in the community. And we'll look into those Podio templates like we talked about, the clones. And
Yeah.
we can help in any way. Just feel free to jump in and ask in the questions or comments. You can find Jasper on Facebook. He's been posting a lot of stuff these days and I think bringing a lot of value. So check him out on Facebook and elsewhere. And mostly I'm here on YouTube, but I did start a Facebook page too because I knew I needed a separate one. It's just called Mark Cool Investing on Facebook because I think I've mentioned before that my normal account's usually managed by one of the people on my team. I'm not usually the person posting there or talking to people on Messenger there. All right. Well, thanks everyone. And I hope everyone has a great week and we'll see you next time.